I don't remember the exact moment the car flipped. I only remember the sound, metal groaning like it was begging for mercy, my own breath slamming back into my chest, the world tumbling in slow, horrifying circles. 1 second, I was driving home from my morning shift, yawning, thinking about maybe making pancakes. The next, tires screeched, something hit me from behind, and the whole world rotated like it was trying to shake me loose. Glass burst around me like frozen rain. My head snapped sideways. My hands flew off the wheel. Then, silence. A ringing silence that stretched and stretched as the crushed roof met the ground. I didn't die, but I wished someone would look at me like my life mattered. Please subscribe to our channel and tell us in comments from where are you watching this video. All I could see was dirt, broken glass, and the dull gray metal pinning my shoulder. I tried to move, but a pain shot through my ribs sharp enough to steal my breath. My seatbelt held me in place, half hanging sideways. The sun blinked through gaps in the dented door and made everything look unreal, like I was underwater. I called out for help even though no one was there yet. Please. Somebody. The ringing wouldn't stop. My heart pounded so hard I could hear it echoing in my skull. Panic clawed up my throat. I didn't know if I was bleeding. I didn't know if the fuel was leaking. I didn't know if the car would burst into flames. I didn't know anything except that I was alone. Or so I thought. A few minutes later, I heard footsteps crunching on gravel. At first, relief washed through me. Maybe the driver who hit me stopped. Maybe a stranger was coming to help. Then I recognized the voices, my parents. They weren't supposed to be anywhere near this road, and yet here they were. My mother's distinct sigh, my father's annoyed groan, like even being near my wrecked car was an inconvenience. "Oh my God," I whispered, tears filling my eyes. "Mom! Dad! I'm here! I'm stuck!" I expected panic, urgency, humanity. But my parents weren't running. They weren't shouting for help. They were walking, slowly, calmly, like they were browsing a store aisle. Dad stepped closer to the overturned car and nudged the bumper with his foot like he was checking a piece of furniture at a garage sale. "Well, that's totaled," he said flatly. Mom clicked her tongue. I told her that old car was a risk, but nobody listens. My voice cracked. "I'm trapped. I can't. Dad, please. My arm." He didn't kneel. He didn't try to pull open the door. He didn't even look directly at me. Instead, he bent down and picked up something from the ground, a small purse that must have flown out of the window during the crash. My purse. The one with my wallet, my keys, my paycheck envelope. "Oh, good," he said. "This didn't get damaged." Mom smiled, her tone brightening. "Perfect. We were just talking about taking your sister out today. Maybe she can finally get that dress she wanted." My heart stopped. "What?" Mom crouched, not to check if I was alive, not to see the way the metal dug into my shoulder, but to shake debris off the purse. "Well, at least something good came from your little accident," she said. "Your sister gets her shopping day now. She deserves a treat after all the stress you cause." My breath stuttered. I'm hurt. Can you please call someone, please? I can't move." Dad looked at me like I was overreacting. "Emma, stop acting dramatic. People survive car flips all the time. You're fine." "I'm not fine. My ribs. I can't. Please, I need help." He straightened and pocketed my keys. "We'll come back once things calm down. The scene is a mess right now." My mother nodded, brushing her hair behind her ear. "Yes, let the professionals deal with it. No need to get involved. Besides, Jade has been waiting all morning." Jade. Of course. My younger sister, the golden child, the princess of the family. She didn't know how to hold a job, but she always knew how to hold our parents' attention. She'd throw a tantrum if they didn't take her shopping every weekend, and if they couldn't afford it, my parents blamed me for creating tension in the house. Dad started walking away from my overturned car, my metal tomb, with my purse swinging casually from his hand. I screamed, "Dad, please! I'm hurt! Don't leave me here!" He didn't turn around. Mom glanced back once, only long enough to roll her eyes. "Stop yelling, Emma. You'll scare the rescuers, and don't embarrass us if someone sees." Embarrass them. Not die, not bleed, not suffer, just embarrass them. I watched their figures disappearing up the hill as dust kicked up around their shoes. I could still hear my mom's voice drifting down the road. At least her sister gets something nice today. Something inside me shattered so quietly, no one but me heard it. Something that had been holding on for years. Hope. The tiny, stupid belief that maybe someday they would show concern or affection or even basic human decency. Pinned under that crushed metal, unable to move, unable to breathe without pain, I understood something I should have understood a decade ago. I was not their daughter. I was their scapegoat, their inconvenience, their afterthought. A stranger who wasn't good enough to set a table for, not good enough to save from a flipped car. By the time the paramedics arrived, I was barely conscious. They asked me if anyone had been with me, if someone had tried to help. I couldn't answer, not because of the pain, but because I didn't know how to explain that my own parents had stepped over me like I was debris. As they lifted me out, stabilized my ribs, checked my neck, all I could think was, they left me. They took my purse and left me. That moment planted something dark but necessary. Inside me, not hatred, not rage. A decision. A decision that the day I got back on my feet, I wouldn't just leave their house. I would take something from them they valued more than my life. Something they couldn't replace. Something they would feel. Something they would regret. And I would not be quiet about it. When I woke up in the hospital the next morning, the first thing I felt wasn't the pain in my ribs. It was the absence of anyone sitting beside my bed, the absence of a mother's hand on mine, the absence of a father pacing the hallway asking doctors for updates, the absence of a sister pretending to care for show. There was just a plastic cup of water, a beeping machine, and an empty chair. The nurse told me the crash could have been worse. I had 2 fractured ribs, a sprained shoulder, deep bruising, and a mild concussion. "You're lucky," she said gently. Lucky. I didn't feel lucky. I felt discarded. When she asked if my family had been notified, I hesitated. I didn't want to hear the answer, but she spoke anyway. "Your parents came by for 5 minutes last night. They didn't stay." Of course they didn't. What did they say?" I asked. She looked uncomfortable. "Your mother asked if you could sign a release form so she could access your insurance for the vehicle, and then they left. They stole my purse to go shopping. Now they wanted my insurance to fix their car concerns." My stomach twisted. They didn't ask if I was okay. They didn't ask if I'd been conscious when the medics came. They didn't ask if I was scared or alone or in pain. They only asked for what they could take. Later that afternoon, my phone, returned to me by the police, buzzed with a text from Mom. "Mom, we'll pick you up when you're discharged. Make sure the hospital paperwork is ready. We're very busy today." Busy, shopping probably, celebrating maybe, pretending they weren't the reason I almost died alone. I didn't respond. Another message came. "Dad, the car situation is a mess. We need your information ASAP. Don't make this harder." Not a single word about the crash. Not a single word about me. Then Jade chimed in. "Jade, can you hurry? Mom and Dad are stressed. You always make everything a disaster." I stared at the screen, reading the words again and again. They were trying to blame me, for them leaving me under a flipped car. Part of me wanted to scream. Part of me wanted to cry. But a deeper, colder part of me went absolutely still. That part wanted something else. Justice. When the doctor came in later, I asked calmly, "How long do I need to stay?" "Probably 2 more days," he said. "You need rest, pain management, and monitoring." 2 days. 2 days to plan. I took out my phone and opened an email draft. Something quiet, something simple, something that would matter later. Then I called someone I never thought I'd reach out to. My Aunt Rose. The only person in our family who ever saw through my parents' act. The one they always said was too soft or too nosy. When she picked up, her voice softened instantly. "Emma? Honey? What's wrong?" and for the first time since the crash, my throat closed with relief. "Aunt Rose." "Can you come to the hospital?" I whispered. "Please, I don't want to be alone." She arrived in 20 minutes. Her face went white when she saw me, bruised, bandaged, barely sitting upright. She held my hand so carefully, as if I might break more. "What happened?" I told her everything, not dramatically, not angrily, just the truth. How the car flipped, how my parents showed up, how they walked away with my purse, not even checking if I was alive, how they laughed about Jade getting a shopping day, how they planned to use my insurance, how they blamed me for making them busy. By the time I finished, Aunt Rose looked like she wanted to tear the hospital walls down. "They left you?" she whispered. "They left you under a crushed car?" I nodded. "Oh, sweetheart," she said, tears in her eyes. "This is not a mistake. This is who they are." Hearing someone else say it aloud snapped something into focus. This wasn't a moment of cruelty. It was a pattern. A lifetime. And now, a line crossed so violently that even standing near it hurt. Aunt Rose took photos of my injuries, with my permission. She made notes. She asked for the police report number. She stayed with me until I slept, and for the first time in years, I felt something unfamiliar. I wasn't alone. Meanwhile, my parents kept texting, "Mom, hurry and sign the forms. Jade is upset. You ruined her shopping trip." "Dad, fine. We'll come tomorrow. Don't take forever." They had no idea that everything was changing, that I wouldn't be leaving the hospital with them, that I wouldn't be returning home to the house where my life had been undervalued, ignored, erased. They had no idea that every word they sent, every demand they made, every ounce of selfishness they showed was becoming evidence. Evidence I would use, not to hurt them physically, not to embarrass them publicly, not to create viral drama, but to take something they valued far more, control. And by the time they arrived for discharge day, I would be ready. I didn't sleep the night before discharge, not because of the pain, but because everything inside me finally aligned with a clarity I had never felt before. My parents thought they knew me, thought I was predictable, thought I would crawl back into their house, limp into my old role, sign anything they shoved in my face, and apologize for being an inconvenience. This time, they were wrong. They arrived late the next morning, naturally. Mom walked in holding a shopping bag, Jade trailing behind her in a new outfit she proudly flaunted, and Dad holding a clipboard of insurance papers like he was my legal guardian. Mom didn't even sit. "Let's hurry, we have errands." Dad dropped the clipboard onto my bed. "Sign everything. They need your statement for the car and give us the login for your insurance portal." All that mattered to them was the purse they stole and the coverage they wanted to use. But they didn't notice the extra visitor sitting beside me, Aunt Rose. Her posture was calm, composed, but her eyes were sharp, watching everything, taking note of every careless word. Dad frowned. "Why is she here?" Aunt Rose smiled politely. "I'm here to take Emma home." Mom scoffed. "Don't be ridiculous. She lives with us." "No," I said quietly. "I don't." They turned to me, startled by the firmness in my voice. Mom laughed. "Emma, don't act childish. Get dressed. Let's go." I didn't move. I lifted the clipboard instead. "Before I sign anything, I want to hear you say what happened at the crash." Dad's jaw tightened. "We came to check on you." Aunt Rose raised an eyebrow. "Is that the story you're going with?" Jade shrugged. "You're welcome for making sure your purse didn't get dirty." Aunt Rose froze. She stared directly at my parents. "You let her lie under a flipped car because you wanted to go shopping?" Mom's voice pitched. "Oh, stop dramatizing. We didn't know how bad it was." I locked eyes with her. "I screamed your names." Dad snapped. "We were overwhelmed, and she wasn't even bleeding that much." There it was, the line, the truth spilling out of them. Aunt Rose pulled out her phone and opened the photos she'd taken, the bruises, the cuts, the police officer's card, the timestamp. Then she held the phone up for them to see. "You left your injured daughter," she said coldly. "You walked away with her purse. And now you want access to her insurance? The color drained from my mother's face. Aunt Rose continued, I've already shared these details with the officer assigned to the case and with Emma's HR department. And if needed, she paused. I'll bring them to the department that handles insurance fraud. Dad's mouth fell open. Fraud? What fraud? The fraud, she said, of trying to make your injured daughter sign papers while medicated, papers that would clear you of responsibility and give you money you're not entitled to. They stared at me. Not guilty, not sorry, just afraid. Mom sputtered, Emma, you can't report your own parents. I don't need to, I said quietly. It's already documented, and anything else you say today will be added to the file. Dad grabbed the clipboard from my bed. Forget it. If she won't sign, then we'll... A nurse stepped into the doorway. My nurse. Is everything all right here? She asked, eyes narrowing. Aunt Rose answered. We're finishing paperwork, and Emma is being discharged into my care. Dad whipped around. She lives with us. The nurse shook her head. Actually, she signed her own discharge choice this morning. Legally, she may leave with whomever she chooses. I watched the realization spread across their faces. They had lost control. Mom took a step toward me. Emma, honey, you're tired. You're emotional. Just come home and we'll... No, I said, quiet but unshakable. I'm going somewhere I matter. She blinked rapidly. We need you at home. And I needed you under that car, I said. But you chose shopping. Dad's voice cracked with anger. If you walk out that door, you're on your own forever. Aunt Rose leaned in slightly. Be very careful with threats when the hospital staff is listening. He shut his mouth. I slowly stood, wincing at the rib pain, and gathered the few belongings I had. Aunt Rose took my bag. The nurse handed me my discharge folder, and I faced them one last time. You left me to die, I said simply. And now you want me back so you don't lose the maid, the errand runner, the insurance signature, the caretaker, the scapegoat. I'm not coming back to that house. Not ever. Mom reached out like she was grabbing smoke. Emma, please, don't ruin the family. I stepped back. You ruined it the second you chose a shopping trip over your daughter's life. Then I walked out. Not dramatically. Not angrily. Not crying. Just done. Later that week, my parents tried calling, texting, guilt-tripping, threatening. I ignored all of it. When the insurance investigator called me, not them, I told the truth. Calmly, factually. He thanked me for my honesty and assured me that the claim would be reviewed with suspicious activity noted. My parents lost access to my insurance. They lost their ability to use my identity for benefits. They lost their emotional punching bag. They lost their housekeeper. They lost their scapegoat. They lost control. And as for Jade's shopping trips, without my income, without my labor, without my presence keeping the house functioning, they collapsed fast. Aunt Rose updated me later, quietly, with a hint of satisfaction, that the financial pressure and investigation fallout hit them harder than any confrontation ever could. My revenge wasn't poetic. It wasn't dramatic. It wasn't loud. It was real. I walked away, and the life they built on my back fell apart behind me. For once, they were the ones crying, not me. Please subscribe to our channel and tell us in comments from where are you watching this video.